Welcome to the first lesson on the parts of speech that serve as the building blocks of the English language. In this lesson, we'll examine 6 parts of speech, and in future lessons, we'll examine other parts. Okay, let's begin with nouns. A noun is a word we use to name a person, place, thing, or abstract idea. Some examples of nouns include the following. In the sentences shown here, all of the underlined words are nouns. Okay, let's move on to verbs. To begin, a verb is a type of word that describes an action or a state of being. It tells us what's happening in a sentence. Now, the verb is really the heart of any sentence, so identifying verbs is often the most important step in understanding the meaning of a sentence. Now, as I said earlier, a verb describes an action or a state of being. A verb that describes an action is called an action verb, and a verb that describes a state of being is called a linking verb. In general, action verbs explain what someone or something is doing. So, for example, in the sentence, Tahir drives the bandwagon, the action verb drives explains what Tahir is doing. In the sentence, Hans constantly thinks about gravy, the action verb thinks explains what Hans is doing. And in the sentence, the maid tackled the unsuspecting postal worker, the verb tackled explains what the maid did in the past. Okay, now linking verbs are much different from action verbs. A linking verb connects a noun to information about that noun. For example, in the sentence, the kitten is grumpy, the verb is used as a linking verb. It connects the kitten to information about the kitten. The information is that the kitten is grumpy. Similarly, in the sentence, these eggs taste rotten, the verb taste is used as a linking verb. It connects the eggs to information about the eggs. Some words that can be used as linking verbs include the various forms of to be, as well as these words. Now, there are additional words, but this list of common words should give you a good idea of what constitutes a linking verb. Now, it's important to point out that many linking verbs can also function as action verbs, depending on the context of the sentence. For example, in the sentence, Akiko looks tired, the word looks is a linking verb that connects Kiko to more information about Kiko. That is, she is tired. Conversely, in the sentence, Akiko looks for her pants, the word looks is an action verb that expresses an action that Akiko is performing. Similarly, in the sentence, my dog smells awful, the word smells is a linking verb that connects the dog to more information about the dog. However, in the sentence, my dog smells pizza, smells is an action verb that expresses an action that the dog is performing. Alright, now we'll discuss action verbs and linking verbs again in future lessons. However, for the time being, let's move on to the next part of speech, the pronoun. Now, a pronoun is a generic word that we can use in place of a noun in order to make sentences less cumbersome and less repetitive. For example, take this awful sentence. Homer told Marge that Homer ate Marge's chocolate bar because the chocolate bar looked delicious. By replacing several of the nouns with pronouns, we get a much more readable sentence. Homer told Marge that he ate her chocolate bar because it looked delicious. Now let's look at some other examples of sentences featuring pronouns. First, we have, everyone in the office knows that Kevin broke the photocopier. In this sentence, the pronoun everyone is used in place of listing everyone in the office. Now consider this sentence. The cars in the United States are larger than those in Europe. Here, instead of saying the cars in the United States are larger than the cars in Europe, we can use the pronoun those in place of the cars. Okay, one more sentence. Brad fired 3 employees because he no longer trusted them. Here the pronoun he is used in place of Brad, and the pronoun them is used in place of the 3 employees. Now, there are several different types of pronouns which we'll examine in future lessons. For the time being, however, just know that pronouns typically serve as placeholders for other nouns. Okay, the next part of speech is the adjective. An adjective is a word that describes or provides more information about a noun or a pronoun. An adjective typically answers one or more of the following questions. What kind, which one, how many, and how much. An adjective is also known as a modifier because it helps make something less generic. For example, in the sentence, the tired accountant was ready for a cold drink, the word tired is an adjective that describes the noun accountant. What kind of accountant? A tired one. The sentence also has the adjective cold, which describes the noun drink. What kind of drink are we talking about? A cold one. Next, in the sentence, everyone loves Ted's apple pie, there are two adjectives that modify the word pie. First, the word Ted's tells us more about the pie. It happens to be Ted's pie. And the word apple tells us more about the pie by telling us what kind of pie it is. Here's another example. 35 people attended the Thanksgiving parade. Here, 35 is an adjective that tells us more about the people. There were 35 of them. The word Thanksgiving tells us more about what kind of parade it was. Now later in this module, we'll see that a group of words can also function as an adjective modifying some noun. For example, in the sentence, the man wearing the monkey costume used to be a broker, the phrase wearing the monkey costume functions as an adjective because it modifies the word man. What kind of man? A monkey costume wearing man. Okay, the next part of speech to discuss is the adverb. An adverb is a word that modifies a verb, an adjective, a phrase, a clause, or another adverb. In a nutshell, we can pretty much say that if a word modifies something other than a noun or pronoun, then that modifier is probably an adverb. Now, an adverb typically answers one or more of the following questions: where, when, how often, why, how long, how likely, and to what degree. Let's look at some examples. In the sentence, the cat quickly climbed the tree, the adverb quickly modifies the verb climbed by telling us a little bit more about how the cat climbed. In the sentence, Hansen performed for a very quiet audience, the adverb very modifies the adjective quiet. It tells us the degree to which the audience was quiet. How quiet? Very quiet. Okay, one more example. Frank urged Francine to close the door more carefully. Here we have two adverbs. First, the adverb carefully modifies the verb close. It tells us how Francine should close the door. We also have the adverb more, which modifies the adverb carefully. It tells us just how carefully Francine should close the door. Okay, the last part of speech to discuss in this lesson is the preposition. A preposition is a kind of connecting word. It joins a noun, pronoun, or group of words acting like a noun to another word in a sentence by showing the relationship between them. A preposition can provide information about location, direction, space, or time, or it can provide information about the logical relationship between two things. For example, in the sentence, the dog sleeps beside the bed, the preposition beside connects the noun bed with the verb sleeps by explaining where the dog sleeps. In the sentence, Barney does not like the weather in February, the preposition in connects the nouns weather and February by explaining when Barney dislikes the weather. Now here's a partial list of popular prepositions. There are many more prepositions in the English language, but even this list is longer than you need to know. In fact, if you can familiarize yourself with the most common prepositions, you'll be fine. Now, the most important role that prepositions play in sentences is to begin something called a prepositional phrase, which we'll examine in future lessons. Okay, that's all I want to say about prepositions at this time. Let's summarize. In this lesson, we examined 6 parts of speech. In future lessons, we'll examine other parts of speech that help comprise the basic building blocks of the English language.